Hi, this is the Be Well with Michellie Greenwell podcast. Our heartwarming conversation is designed to lift you on your wellness journey. Grab your cup of tea and enjoy the podcast. Today is a chance for you to catch up with the idea of tea as a healing ally. Cape Breton Tea Company has been introducing different ideas about tea and inspiring the ritual of tea to enhance your daily living. In 2025, we are celebrating 10 years as a tea company. I'm just going to share the new coaster that just arrived that'll be going out in packages when people order. So let's spill some tea, celebrating 10 years. And I wanted to give a thank you very much to my colleague Natasha Polomsky, who started the tea company with me. Its original title was Intend to Radiate, and our idea was about how to use the value of intention to inspire people to really raise their frequency, raise their vibration, using herbs and using the intentions and the essence of the herbs. So as we look forward from here, we're going to talk a little bit today about what this 5-element theory is that we used to put the teas together and how everything has unfolded. So the idea of tea in history, tea has been around for thousands of years. And mostly we know about the history of tea coming from China. And they were drinking tea back in like 2700 BC is what they've earmarked. And we've, because of that, been focused on black tea and green tea. But there is other kinds of tea, and there is the whole herbal part about tea. And we have the indigenous populations in the different countries were using herbs long before, using the leaves off the trees, using the syrup within the tree trunk. So we end up with maple syrup, but there's lots of other kinds. We also have the flower petals, the herbs. Everything has a meaning and a reason for being near us. And often when we have an abundance in one area, it's because that's what we really need. And so tea has been used as a way for people to really support any ailments that they may have had, to provide calming effects when needed, and just to give a little bit of flavor into drinking water. So as we're looking at the kinds of ideas that we have for the Cape Breton Tea Company, this is taking advantage of the history that we have with the black tea and the green tea, but also the power of rooibos, honeybush, and then the herbal blends. And there's lots of people who really enjoy the fruity flavors and bringing in some of the dried fruit that we also include in our blends. So I want to start by crediting, I thanked Natasha for all her inspiration to bring forward the idea of the teas and create our first 14 blends that we had for probably the first 7 years of the company, as well as an award-winning book. And so I can just hold that up so you can see. So this is Tea with Intention. And this book has all kinds of techniques and tools for how to discover which is the right blend for you at the right time. And I'm going to show you some charts in a little bit. But I just wanted to share that Natasha and I actually won an award last year for how we put everything together. And that was the Legacy Leader Awards offered by the Canadian Association of Bioenergetic Wellness, or Can Be Well. And that was for 2024. So we're really excited about that opportunity that came with that. But as is every start to my podcast, we need to have a cup of tea to get going. And I wanted to bring in, I'm going to talk about my daughter today because she played an instrumental role in the way that the company has unfolded and the way some of the blends have come together. She's had her hand in all of that as well. And so I want to bring that forward as we go into the teas. So my daughter, Michellie, I'm giving a shout out to her as well. And there's so many people working in the background to support how the Cape Breton Tea Company is functioning and how it is thriving. And I have wonderful friends who help me with the right herbs, harvesting from their gardens, harvesting from my garden, as well as supporting me with packaging and labeling. So those people all know who they are, and I'm very, very grateful because it takes a village, and I can tell you it in Hillsborough, it's a very special group of people. All right, let's get started. I want to highlight today the cup of tea I have. So I hope you have put a cup of tea aside to listen to the podcast, and you've chosen a tea that you are comfortable with, that you know is going to help you to thrive, chosen a mug or a teacup that has special meaning for you, that is also going to help to bring up the frequency of what you're doing. And I'm going to highlight today, it looks not too reddish orange. It's a little bit on the lighter side, but this is usually like an auburny kind of color. So it comes across on the screen a little bit different. You can see my snowman hiding in there. We're still in winter. But this is Apple Passion. And Apple Passion was the very first blend that we started doing the mixing with. And we went to a friend's house, and we were excited about, Michellie and I were excited about the ingredients we wanted to kind of play with. And so she loves to do chemistry kinds of things. And she said, let's get started. So she started measuring very meticulously and taking notes. And we were trying all the different combinations in the herbs, find out what exactly we wanted to be in this particular blend. We were looking for something for heart and small intestine, part of the fire element. And we knew we wanted to work with cinnamon and cloves, a little bit of apple. Something that you would get around here in Cape Breton, but also on the mainland of Nova Scotia. And so we started playing with that. So now you've seen the color, because the color is really important to the tea. People don't normally talk about color, but we certainly do at the Cape Breton Tea Company, because color can help lift you up as well. It can support you depending on what you need. So Apple Passion, this one is, as I said, for heart and small intestine. I'm just checking in my notes, make sure I say everything. And that has to do with fire element and enthusiasm, vitality, and warm feelings. That's how it was described by Dr. John Thie, who was the inspiration behind the way we put the teas together. And John Thie is the author of the Touch for Health Complete Edition, along with his son, Matthew Thie. And we wanted to help support heart and small intestine in a non-caffeinated way. So that's how we were choosing our herbs. And we settled on the red bush rooibos, apple cinnamon, cloves, orange, rose hip, hibiscus, and vanilla pieces. And people often ask me, how do I put those blends together? Well, I tell you, it does take some time. You can't just pick a couple things and put them together and go, that's good. It takes a little bit, because there's a nuance in the flavors that come out. And if you add a little bit more of one, a little bit less of something else, and try to get that balancing act in there. The rooibos, we added that because it grows, well, first of all, it's known as Aspalathus linearis, grows in South Africa, and the leaves of the plant are what are used for this. Rooibos has a spiritual essence that supports inner peace and rejuvenation. It's considered a powerful herb for helping to balance out the chakras, the energy systems that come into the body and then transfer the energy from the inside to the outside and back again. And it supports the 5 element system. It is also valuable for dream building. You can see how this is starting to all come together as a wonderful, heartwarming blend that really lifts you up and inspires you, right? What better ingredient to support the intention that we're providing with this part than to add apple? An apple is about bringing in your ancestral heritage and finding those key pieces that have given you strength and vitality that's come down the line. So we have our ancestral knowledge and wisdom. An apple is known for its high antioxidant levels, which is very important for helping the cells to maintain their structure and to repair. And just like rooibos, which is also high in antioxidants, it is very helpful for your heart, circulation, metabolizing sugars, and a lot more. And these are just two of the ingredients in this particular blend. I didn't really even talk about the cinnamon and the cloves, but we all know how that feels when you have an apple pie or you have apple crumble and the flavors that come up from that. All right. I want to read you what's on the package for the intention. So we went into the kitchen and we were mixing and creating and putting these blends together. We drank a lot of tea. It takes a lot just to get it right down to the right piece. But when we got it right, then we started thinking about what is the intention. So the intention on this one is the heart of this blend is its focus on the passion for life, clear insight, and the center for wisdom. So as you're thinking about sipping on the tea, you want to think about what is it I would like more of? What is it that will bring me a little bit more vitality or joy? And then you can think about the phrase and then start to think about what does that mean to you? And then start sipping on the tea and allowing the herbs just wash over those thoughts and start to really embrace them. All right, I'm going to show you the front of the package because the Cape Breton Tea Company always has different symbols. So this one you can see fire element up in the corner. You know then it's part of the Tea with Intention series and it's part of the fire element. Okay, and it's also got a little fire symbol in it. We always have some kind of symbol for whatever ingredient is in the tea. So this one we've got apple passion. And then down at the bottom, a little maple leaf, because of course we're a Canadian company. And you also have love. These are hand mixed and hand packaged here in Cape Breton. And so you're getting something that has been infused with our passion and love, as well as we often are playing music. So you also have the music that we've been playing. And we always have the intention in mind as we're packaging. So filling that all up into the package. Now on the back side of the Teas with Intentions are a whole bunch more intentions. This particular series, we wanted people to have options. So you have extra affirmations that come on the back side, and then you also have the way to make the tea. So before I go further, cheers, Solange. Thank you for joining me for this special podcast about tea as a healing ally. And I'm just going to have a sip. First thing you want to do is just have that smell come in. That smell immediately calms, goes past the nervous system, goes right into the limbic system. So instant calming. And then it connects up to the motor system. And then the two systems are able to function together just because I had a little sniff. All right, here we go. That one always has a special spot in my heart. All right. So our intention was to focus on the 5 elements of Chinese medicine, the theory. The theory is we have these elements, fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. I do have a chart. I'm going to bring it up for you because we made a bunch of charts for the tea. I'm just going to share this one with you. So then you can see how the cycle goes around. So we've got fire. Then we have earth, which helps stomach and spleen. We go down to metal, which is lung and large intestine. We come across to water, which is kidney and bladder. And then we're at wood, which is gallbladder and liver. Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you can't see the charts and the books that I'm holding up, what I would like you to know is that there was a beautiful red picture at the top. There are 5 spots, looks kind of like a star, and they're all color-coded. So fire is red, earth is yellow, metal is gray, water is blue, wood is green. And we have a wheel. We can go, nurturing cycle goes around the wheel, fire, earth, metal, water, wood. So we can go around the wheel that way. Now we could sip tea from each of the elements. If it was something we really wanted to nurture our system, we felt we had a lot of stressful things going on, then we could start to sip the tea in this pattern. It may be across several days, doesn't have to be all in one day, but just taking the time to just kind of move through them and help to balance the system based on the herbs that have been included. Now we have another cycle. This one is a co-cycle. This is, they either say creation or destruction cycle. So it's about changing things. And so I like to refer to that more as the changing cycle. So it has a relationship going on. So the fire up at the very top has a relationship that if I go past earth and go to metal, there's a relationship from fire to metal. And they call that the grandmother-granddaughter. All right. And so there's a special communication that happens between them. And then we could go from metal across, we would skip water and we'd end up at wood. So we go metal over to wood. And what happens with this is we start to empower these different systems by having energy moving in different ways. The two systems actually overlap on top of each other. So they're both operating at the same time within the body. But we have different ways that we can play with them and that we can help support them. So if I was having trouble with fluid retention as an idea, water element, then maybe that might be something where I need to drink a little bit more rising tides. But then maybe also I might get some empowerment from somewhere else. So if I was to go over to earth element, you can see the arrow goes across to water. So there's a relationship there. So I might drink some of the Symphony of the Earth tea, and it's going to help empower the water element. So we have some different ways we can play, and the book explains more about it. But I wanted you to know the depth of what's coming with those blends. All right. We also have the tea chart this way. So again, if you're listening to the podcast, what I'm holding up now is that same 5-element chart with those 5 colors, but then I also have the teas listed there and also which of the energy systems. So if it was the wood element, then I have liver and gallbladder. It says right there, but then it also has which teas, releasing the warrior is part of that. Okay. So I wanted to explain a little bit about that. And then I wanted to just bring us to the idea of the different teas we can choose from. Those are all herbal teas. In 5-element theory, we went with all herbal teas. We based a lot of our research on the work of Evelyn Mulders, and she owns soundessence.net. She wrote a book about Western herbs for Eastern medicine, and it's a fantastic book with some excellent protocols in it about how you can connect with these different herbs. What we wanted to do was create combinations that had layers of nurturing in them and provide you with a tea that was more than, some people might pull a few herbs and they'll put them together because they're their favorite herbs. But we were actually very specific to the intentions and which system it was going to be supporting. Okay, so let's move from there to black tea. A lot of people asked me to get in a good quality black tea because they couldn't find one. And I did some digging to find an organic orange pekoe, because that's the favorite one that everybody loves to drink here on Cape Breton Island. And usually that's in the form of red rose or king cole. And they're in tea bags. So I have a loose leaf version of that, and it's organic. And with it, I've also done the intentions. So it is not only an orange pekoe, but it also has the special intentions that go behind it. And in the case of King George, which is the title we gave that black tea, we also linked it up to music. The King George reels and Strass bays, which are favorites by the fiddlers here. So you can see how, even though we just have the orange pekoes, we just have that leaf, it is an organic, high-quality blend. It's loose, so it can expand in the teapot, get some really great flavors. And then we've linked it up with the intentions and music. Now here in Cape Breton, very often the teapot would have been put on the back of the stove. They would have just thrown in a whole handful of tea bags, and it would have been sitting on the stove to be able to invite company in and offer a cup of tea any time of the day. And usually that came with a treat that would come out as well, some biscuits, oat cakes, maybe some cheese, maybe some jelly. That is another big part of about tea is the ritual of tea. And at the Cape Breton Tea Company, because we're asking you to think about what it is you want more of, looking at the intentions on the package, if you're looking at the 5-element teas, it also has a very special way of holding the herbs before you put them in the water, of not boiling the water, but actually only bringing the water up to 80 degrees. And that's so that you don't burn the herbs. You give them a chance to expand, fill up with that water, and then really start to pull the flavors out. The black tea, you're definitely going to boil. With black teas, you do that. But what I recommend with this is that if you boil the water, don't boil and boil and boil and boil it. Bring it up to the boil, get it start to boil, and then steep it for only a couple of minutes. And there's a quality change. The tea has very sweet, soft flavor. And a lot of people think black tea is a bitter tea, and so milk and sugar get added without even checking to see what the tea tastes like. It's just we need to add milk and sugar because we know it's going to be bitter. But it actually has a very soft, caramelly kind of flavor if you blend it and take the time with making sure the water's right, that you don't oversteep it. Pull that tea bag out, don't leave it in the pot, and then you're going to have a really nice cup of tea. And that lends itself to the ritual of tea drinking with a friend, which is being able to take the time, you've got the intention to set, what kind of conversation do you want to have, what kind of tea set might you bring out, and how are you going to prepare the tea and pour it. Tea ritual is really important. So here in the Greenwell household, we have on the front cover of our book, we have the teapot that comes from a trip to the Orient that my husband's great-grandfather took, and he brought back this amazing, beautifully painted ceramic tea set. And we keep that one for when we have green tea. And that's one that we like. When you pour out of that one, it looks like a dragon is breathing fire when you're pouring that one. But if we're looking at a black tea, then I like to haul out my great-grandmother's tea set, which was gold and white on the inside for parts of it, but the inside of the teacup is gold. It's just absolutely beautiful. And it just picks up the color of the tea so beautifully. Now, the thing about drinking out of a teacup is that you pour a small amount of tea and then it cools just beautifully. So while you're sipping, it's not too hot because the taste of the tea changes with the temperature of the water. So as it starts to cool, it starts to really mellow a little bit more. And the tea is beautiful, even if it's warm. And of course, tea can be drunk cold because everybody knows about iced tea. So how we prepare it is really important. And then what we want to do with it, those teacups are small. You'll have a few sips and then you'll be ready to pour again. But how lovely is the conversation where you're talking and then you're pouring the tea. Can I offer you some more? Oh, yes, that would be lovely. And this caregiving goes back and forth between the people having that cup of tea. And that's a really important part of the whole tea drinking ritual. All right. I talked a little bit about the black tea. What I should say is, particularly around here, I talked about the milk and the sugar. Now, here, you put the milk in first, and then you put the tea on top, and that's very important. But what I do want to add is black tea has caffeine. It's not the same caffeine as chocolate, and it's not the same caffeine as coffee. It also is a calming piece for the nervous system. And people don't realize that. They think that if it's got caffeine in it, it's just going to give you a jolt and wake you up. What the black tea actually does is it actually calms the system and then it opens the mind. So you have a calmness to open the mind, which allows you to really solve some great problems. However, if you put milk in, that changes the chemical reaction of that whole process. So you don't get the same effect. And so some people will actually get a jitter after they've drunk that tea because the milk has changed it, and then the caffeine may bother you. So I just wanted to plant that little seed because some people don't know about that. And that could be a difference of whether or not you're choosing to drink a black tea or not. And I was choosing not to. And what I've discovered is my body actually really thrives with black tea. My joints are much happier if I'm drinking a black tea. So I kind of change it back and forth between all the different options. But I wanted to give you that option. All right. So let's look a little bit beyond the ceremonies, and let's focus on another set of teas. I wanted to bring about some of the ways that Michellie has really supported the tea company, besides testing a lot of tea and going home with all kinds of samples and then giving me feedback and helping me with what should I put on a label or those kinds of things. She's fabulous for that. But when it came time to make Natalie MacMaster Set, I thought, we go back a long ways with our interactions with Natalie and with her music, shows that we did with her. It would be really lovely for Michellie to be a part of that whole process. So she came up for the weekend. And as I said, making tea isn't as simple as just put a couple blends to, a couple things together and it works. It doesn't. And so we spent 3 days working on 3 blends to bring about something for Natalie that would work. I have to say that Michellie was great. We decided we needed a black, a green, and an herbal. So that would kind of get all the different audiences for tea that there are. But we also wanted something that really connected to Natalie's music and to her show. And Michellie spent a lot of time going back through her albums, her liner notes, the names of the different songs, some of the different music compilations. So it was a lot of in-depth work that we put into how we wanted to prepare before we even started into what were going to be the ingredients in the tea. From there, we came up with Fit as a Fiddle, which is the black tea. That being as close to an orange pekoe as we could get, but adding a little bit of Cape Breton in there. Each of those 3 blends has rose petals. And the reason we wanted to bring in rose is really about love, compassion, connection with people, reaching out. That's part of Cape Breton, but that's also about the way the MacMasters and the Leahys really look at their music and the way that they set up their concerts for people. And we felt that was really important to have. So Fit as a Fiddle is the black tea, but then we have the kitchen party. And when we created the kitchen party, we ended up with this gorgeous purple color. And we were so excited. So we thought, okay, we got this beautiful purple. Can we reproduce it? So we made a second batch, and sure enough, we reproduced it, no problem. Perfect. We've got this beautiful orange tea, and now we have this vibrant purple tea. And that's Kitchen Party. So we wanted something that talked about how music is cultivated, how people come together in the kitchens here. Everybody's dancing and singing and being a part of the music. And that purple just was the liveliness that went with it. Now, I have to laugh because Michellie and I, the next day, when we went to make a 3rd batch to test it, to see if it was going to still ring true, came out gray. And we could not get it to make the purple color. So the combination of the way the herbs come together in this particular blend, if you haven't shaken the package up and got a really perfect mix, then you'll get all different colors. So we had to put on the back of the package an actual scale for a kitchen party. So whether it was going to be a corker or it was going to be a snoozer. And we did that based on the colors that came out. The flavor is the same no matter what, but it's really fun to find out what is the color that's going to be a part of your tea. Now, then we went to the autograph, and we thought about the gifts that people offer by playing music, about sharing their artistry. And we wanted something that really brought that forward, especially for connections, creating new opportunities, and the ritual of tea to be able to drink with each other. So that's how the autograph was born. And the affirmation on that one is about how when we offer our gifts, our talents to other people, it allows them to shine with their talents because of what we've shared. So making sure we really don't hold back. So I have to thank Michellie because we had an incredible photo shoot that we did. Great ways to put the teas together. We talked about recipes. It was really, it was a solid weekend. We drank a lot of tea. Fast forward from that series, and I want to bring us to some of the other pieces that have come together since that time. So I wanted something that brought Michellie forward a little bit. And she likes to stay in the background, but I also know how much she loves tea. So I said to her a few months back, I've been playing around with matchas. I really think the matchas should be something that are a part of what you do, Michellie. And she's been taking the matchas home and sipping away on them for almost a year, actually, as we tried to play with them. So this last couple months, we put together a very special series, and this is called Michellie's Matcha Mixes. And so for those listening, I'm just holding up the label. It has a little kitten in a teacup, which both Michellie and our households have kitty cats. And we have a teacup there. And then the matcha mixes, we decided to play around with the names being things that people would say here in Cape Breton, or some of them you'll hear up in Newfoundland as well. And we thought that would be a lot of fun to give the names that way. So it's a little bit of Cape Breton, but matcha is a green tea that's been finely ground in a very special processor. And the processor comes from Japan, and it has to be prepared a very special way. It's a very fine powder, and you mix it with water. You can mix it also with milk, and you can froth it, and it typically does have a green tea kind of flavor to it. So our very first one is Jasmine Green, because most people really do enjoy jasmine. And we wanted to have that real green flavor for those people that love that. And the affirmation on this is, a pure heart lightens the load for others. So it's reminding people to not take things too seriously, but also when interacting with others, make sure that you come from a place of love and compassion and outreach, and that's going to go a long way in the way that you can connect and make a difference for people. And we called it, well, this is it. And then around here, people will say, oh, what's going on? And I say, well, this is it. And that's your answer. So nobody ever wants to share all of the trials and tribulations going on at home. All right, so that gives you a little bit of the green, and it is a green color. So when you put it in a cup, it's a green color. Then we fell in love with peach and vanilla, and the opportunity to make, we called it a peachsicle. And this one provides us with the sunny days are the ones when we shine a light on the simple things that mean so much. That means make sure you stop to smell flowers. Notice it's sunny out. Sometimes we forget. And several gray days and you forget. It's like, there's that sun. And here we have a lot of great sunrises and sunsets. So really take the moment, breathe in the fresh air, connect with nature, realize the sun is shining on your face and lighting up your world. This one is called Where You To? So one of the things that people often will ask you is, if you run into them in the store or you're heading out somewhere, where you to? And they just want to know what's happening in your world when they say that phrase. All right, now the last one, I'm going to hold this up because, make sure that mic is open. This one, I'm hoping you can see the blue in here. I get a lot of people that ask me about the blue pea flower. And this does have blue pea flower, and it also has raspberry pieces in it. So this is not quite a traditional matcha, but oh my gosh, is it lovely. I'm going to have a sip. So this one is a sweet blue raspberry matcha. And it does have the butterfly blue pea flower in it, as well as raspberry, which is what I mentioned. And the affirmation is, the home of our hearts brings confidence and courage to all that we do. So when we come from the heart, we do something we're really passionate about, and it says the home of our hearts. So there's maybe what you think about, there's your heart center, that's what comes from your gut and what you know to be true or your instinct. Then we can have confidence and we can have courage. And this one is called Just Landed Home. And that's very often in the summer, you hear that because everyone, oh, you're back. Good to see you. Yeah, just landed home. So that's a common phrase that you'll hear around here as well. So thank you, Michellie, for all the joy that you bring me to the company, and also for agreeing to be a part of Michellie's Matcha Mixes. We're looking forward to putting those on the shelves in the coming weeks here. Okay, now we've gone through those little pieces there, and I wanted to just shed a light on the Harmony Blends series. So if you have not heard of that series yet, this is one that 6 tea blends were created. They're a mix of black with green, green with rooibos, rooibos herbal. There's a whole bunch of different things, but they're for building resiliency. And they're set up based on the chakra system. So where the teas with intentions were based on 5 elements, Chinese medicine, this is all based on Ayurvedic and the idea of the chakras, energy centers where you get your real vitality from, and supporting those systems. We have from the note of C, the root chakra, the note of C. Then we go to the heart, our heart center. There's a connecting tea that goes from the root to the heart. Then we have from the heart to the brow. There's a connector tea that gets you from the heart to the brow, but then we also have the tea for the brow. So there's, as we're coming up through those pieces, we also have a tea that is from your heart center to your throat, being able to speak your truth. You know what you're passionate about, you figured that out, now you want to speak your truth. And so you can sip those teas similar to the 5 elements. We're in a certain pattern. You can sip them from the root chakra all the way up to the third eye. You can do that across several days, a week, based on a project. But then you also have just you can just have a sip of whichever one is kind of where you're at for the day and what it is you need and which intention supports you the best. Along with that, we made a Harmony Coaster series, which has 11 coasters, which has infused photographs that are on the top. That's what you would place your water, your tea, your beverage on top of. Underneath are intentions, herbs, and also a note. So we have different ways that you can engage with the information that comes on those coasters. Those coasters are easy. You can set them beside your computer, in the kitchen. When company comes over, let them select their own coaster, and you're infusing their water. And I'll say it as water. Yes, it's going to be tea. It could be something else. But you have this opportunity to change the intentions that's held within the water. Now, that's a whole other program. And you know that you have availability to the tea, but you also have availability to the program. I wanted to draw a highlight to my YouTube channel at Michellie Greenwell. So if you have not been there, there's a lot of playlists there, but there's one playlist which is just for tea and another one that's just for Natalie's teas. The one that is just for tea explains how I work with the tea, but also it takes the relationship of different herbs with each other and starts to develop a whole storyline. So you can listen to that. You can start to understand how we're looking at it. So when we think about tea for healing, most people will look up what is good for headaches. And then they come up with some ingredients and then they go out in search of them. What they didn't ask is that the priority that my body needs? What is it my body needs first? And what is going to support it the best way? Medicine is always targeting a symptom. That is looking for a cure. We're targeting a symptom. We want it to be better. Healing is about the journey, the discovery of what the signals in your body are telling you and how you respond to allow the body to come back into balance and harmony. So we're not spotting with one herb to try to fix one symptom. We're looking at the overall, all the systems, what's going on, which system is needing the most care, what can we provide it and nourish it with. And as you can see by the intentions and by the combination of herbs that are in the teas at the Cape Breton Tea Company, we've really taken the time to think about the relationship of the herbs to each other and how they support the systems. This way, you don't have to target with just one herb and say, please herb fix everything. You're going to then say, what do I need? How do I go forward? What tea do I get to sip on? And away you go. It's really that simple. As you go about your day, I would be delighted if you would take a look at the Cape Breton Tea Company, capebretontee.ca, see what calls out to you, and start to make your tea drinking ritual something that really, really counts. Each podcast, I highlight a tea because I want to start that podcast off for you to be able to heal as you're listening to the podcast. We do that with a whole formula, but we have an intention in there, we have the herbs I talk about, and then we have the sipping on the tea. And as I go through the podcast, you'll notice that I'll lift my cup at different times while the person I'm interviewing is speaking. And that's because I'm creating the space, those herbs to come into the conversation, and for helping to move us into that balance and harmony. So for those listening, I just had a sip of the matcha. And what I wanted to bring forward was that space for you to think about. What is your tea ritual? How are you supporting yourself in your self-care? How could tea be a part of that? As we go through to celebrate our 10th anniversary, please, let's spill some tea together. It would be so awesome to have you trying the Cape Breton Tea Company teas and finding your best way to support yourself. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And as we approach the end of season 4 and we move into season 5, we're looking at the transformations that happen on a global scale. And if I was to think about tea, how do we change what's going on in our world? One teacup at a time. We do it by taking care of ourselves, making the space, having the tea ritual, connecting with other people, choosing the herbs that are going to support and lift us up. And by doing that, we support other people to make similar choices so that all of us are continuing to cultivate and nurture each other in our healing. Have an awesome day. Let's spill some tea. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening to Be Well with Dr. Michellie Greenwell. There are a couple of resources I want to just point out. When you go to the website, greenwellcenter.com, you'll have a pop-up window. That pop-up gives you the top 8 easy stress releasers that you can use every day. That's something you can put beside your computer, the bathroom mirror, beside the bedside table. A great resource. Also, my YouTube channel. It is full of playlists with all kinds of different ways that you can activate energy and bring vitality into your day. You can find that when you go to YouTube at Michellie Greenwell. And last, if you're a Linktree person, Linktree, linktr.ee/Greenwell Center. That has all my resources in one spot. Those are for intricate little things that you can't get everywhere. And it's a wonderful way for me to be able to share all the different aspects of the kind of work I do. So thank you for listening. Be sure to drink that tea. And if you want to have the tea blend that was shared in the podcast today, then be sure to check out capebretontee.ca. Have a wonderful day.